What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This video we are looking at the NFL Draftkings and Fanduel final look picks for week number 5 already at that point of the season. Got a 10-game slate this week, so a few less games than usual. Let's go ahead and get into it. As always, if you enjoy the content, appreciate the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Had a good Thursday night showing on the showdown slate, so hopefully we can carry that into the Sunday slate. We need a bounce back after week 4. So let's get started. Other links are in the description if you want to join us for this week, or check out Twitter if you're into betting. Post some plays there. Having some good success. So let's get started. First position we're looking at is quarterback. Looks like that KC Minnesota game is going to be by far the best game to target. You only have, it's already a shorter slate with 10 games with some teams on bye weeks now, and you got London games and all that stuff. So 10-game main slate this week. That KC Minnesota game is by far and away the best and highest total, and it is also a 425 game. So some people like to stack the early games, so you could see a little less ownership than usual. But that total is at 52.5. The Eagles one's at 50.5, and besides that, you got a bunch in the mid to low 40s. You got some in the below 40s, so those aren't really ones you want to target for offense. Patrick Mahomes seems like a good week to target him and Kelsey together. We know how poor this Vikings defense is. Should be a high-scoring game. And after last week where he didn't really play well, he got outplayed by Zach Wilson. I think Mahomes is due for a Patrick Mahomes-type showing with 4 touchdowns or something crazy like that. I don't mind Hurts either at 8,000, but I kind of prefer Mahomes this week. Or if I'm going down, Lamar Jackson against Pittsburgh. He's been playing really well, and Pittsburgh's secondary has been dreadful. It's a spot where you can stack Lamar, even though you don't typically need to, but you could stack him with Zay Flowers, who's in a really good spot, or even Mark Andrews. I'm going with a little bit of a cheaper route here. Still somewhat expensive, but Kirk Cousins, $6,900. I love him at home. He's always going to put up big numbers. Last week, couldn't get really into any rhythm, but they still were able to find a way to get the win against Carolina. It's an ugly, lower scoring type of game. Got some interceptions, some fumbles. Just only threw the ball 19 times, which is not going to happen for Kirk Cousins' team. In Minnesota in this game against KC, expect back and forth type of both teams just driving down the field, putting up touchdowns, and I think he's probably going to go back to throwing over 300 yards. So really like him at $6,900, especially when we get to receiver. You're going to pair him with Justin Jefferson, I think, this week. But other guys at quarterback that look pretty appealing. Tua, that game could be a blowout though, so might not need to throw too much, but they could put up like 50 and have a ton of touchdowns like they did against Denver. So I don't mind him, but I'm looking at Kirk Cousins at $6,900. Richardson, $7K, a little expensive for me. You're probably going to need like a rushing touchdown again, or like 2 that he had the week before to get him a good fantasy showing. Jared Goff, Carolina's a decent, stingy defense, but it's in Detroit in that dome, so you should see more offense. He's missing his number one weapon, or gonna most likely miss his number one weapon in St. Brown, who's doubtful, so it's just a little bit more risk there. Below $6,000, and at $6K flat, I think Stroud makes for a nice GPP play. I don't think people are on him too much, and he's just done nothing but impress. 6 touchdowns, I believe. Yet to throw a pick, so just been putting up really, really good numbers. Not something you see typically from rookie quarterbacks, but it's a great sight for Texans fans. Below 6K, I like Matt Stafford, especially with Cooper Kupp coming back this week. You can play him or stack him if you wanted to, but I'm not going to be playing Kupp this week. Just want to see how it kind of fares if he's on his pitch count or anything like that. And then Daniel Jones just for the legs, maybe, but I like Kirk Cousins. At running back this week, you got a lot that are cheap, that are in good spots, and the 6K range is pretty loaded, so I don't really see myself going up to Bijan or going to Derrick Henry. Kyron Williams takes a little bit of a hit now that with Cooper Kupp back, just probably less touchdown upside, less targets out of the backfield too. Starting with Joe Mixon, who's only $6,400, he gets a dream matchup against the Cardinals defense, who is one of the bottom 5 against the rush this year. Against running backs, giving up 23rd ranked in rushing yards given up per game, giving up almost 4 touchdowns per game. And it's about time this Bengals offense starts putting up some numbers. I think it's a really good spot for them this week against Cardinals defense. So also could see T. Higgins miss, which would improve Mixon's targets out of the backfield. And he's already just playing so much snaps. So I like him for over rushing yards on sports books on Prize Picks, but 64, I think he makes for a really good GPP and a cash game play on DraftKings, even though it's probably popular. I think he still makes sense for tournaments just because it could be one where he has like 2-3 touchdowns. Other running back that I'm going with, you got other ones in this range that look pretty appealing, like Kamara looks good just because he's going to be peppered with so many targets out of the backfield. First game back, he got 14 targets out of the backfield, which is pretty crazy. Turned into 13 catches. No touchdowns, but he's going to be looking at probably 20 touches. And then besides that, you got Mostert and A-Chain. Both are in great spots. They both could have huge games, or one could just take all the touchdowns like last week. A-Chain had 2 touchdowns. Mostert struggled and had a couple fumbles. I would lean A-Chain just because he's a little cheaper. He's been more explosive recently. But if you're just looking for guys that might get more work, Mixon and David Montgomery, especially with Jahmyr Gibbs being added to the injury report late this week on Friday. And typically, when you get guys added to the injury report, it's something that might have happened in practice. So I don't think he's going to play. And if that's the case, you're going to see Montgomery just be the lead back and is probably going to get 80+% of the snaps at running back. So 66 for him I like. Other ones would be Kamara in this range. A-Chain. Below 6K, you got James Conner, who looks good just because he's just a volume back for the Cardinals. You got some questionable pieces here, so keep an eye on that. And they got Breece Hall without any pitch count. He's 54 if you want to take a shot at him. And those are pretty much the main running backs. If Stevenson's out, you can look to Elliott at 47. Going over to wide receiver, like I said, Kirk Cousins pairing him with his number one weapon in Justin Jefferson. He's been amazing this week, even last week, even though Cousins only threw 19 times, 9 of them went to Justin Jefferson. 85 yards out of Kirk Cousins is 139, so just all the volume went to Jefferson. If Cousins threw for his typical high 200s or low 300s, even mid 300s, you probably see like Jefferson get you well over 150 yards. That was the type of pace he was on, but it wasn't needed in that game. Just a weird game. This one should be much higher scoring. Expect Jefferson to probably, and he got into the end zone twice, which was great to see. So just continue just dominating. Like him more than Tyreek Hill this week. Like him more than A.J. Brown. Jamar Chase, really like him if T. Higgins misses. Even if Higgins is in, I think you could go to Chase. But if Higgins is out, I think Chase is in for a monster game. It's been a while. Hasn't had a touchdown yet this year. Can't play Puka now. I think Waddle's a little expensive. Devontae Smith, I'm not really on him this week. You got other guys in the 6K range that look appealing, like Garrett Wilson. He's only $6,000. He looks good for a cheap play. Got 14 targets last week. Zay Flowers in a great spot at $5,500. You have Jordan Addison looking to bounce back, but Cousins just didn't throw much in that game, so he didn't have any catches. Nothing I'm worried about too much. And then value-wise, if St. Brown is going to miss, you're definitely going to want to take a shot on some of these Detroit receivers. You got a couple that are cheap. I'm going with Josh Reynolds at 42. You got Khalif Raymond a little bit cheaper. He's probably going to get less ownership, but Reynolds is a guy that you're going to count on more. He's already been playing a lot of snaps, played 73% of snaps last week. St. Brown played 88. Probably see Reynolds have to kind of absorb that St. Brown role and play like 85 to 90% of snaps at receiver. He was a full practice, so I'm not worried about him missing this game, even though he has a Q tag. And then another cheap receiver that's all the way down at 3K flat, if you want to save some money, would be Wan'Dale Robinson. He's super affordable. The Giants want to get him involved. It's going to be a game where they're probably going to be trailing early and just have to abandon the running game and just continue to pass. So he's been great. His snap counts jumped from 22% in week 3 to 64% last week against the Seahawks, and wouldn't be surprised if it takes an even further jump this week into the 70s. So he's really cheap. The Dolphins, they're going to give up some points and yards. Well, hopefully. Giants are able to move the ball a little bit against that defense. And 3K, you're not getting much risk there. So those are 6 props or plays that I like for DraftKings this week for a final look. Pretty similar on FanDuel, just some differences at running back, but let's go ahead and take a look at that. I forgot that I didn't touch on tight end on DraftKings, but tight end, like Travis Kelce, if you're stacking that game, for sure. Laporta is probably the go-to guy for a little bit cheaper, just without St. Brown was doubtful. And then other than that, take a shot on Tyler Higbee against the Eagles defense. Take a shot on like maybe Durham Smythe, but I'm probably going to end up with Kelce or end up with Sam Laporta. I don't really see myself going to these other tight ends And then defense, cheap defense this week would be the Titans. I really like against the Colts. I think they're really pretty affordable down there. Panthers you can take a shot on if you're not playing any of the Lions. And without St. Brown and maybe without Gibbs, you could probably see their offense score less. And then other than that, Jets defense at 31 against Russell Wilson and his turnover tendencies at times. All the way up at defense. Not really think you need to go to any of these guys, but maybe the Ravens. But that's it for DK. Let's go back to FanDuel. All right, on FanDuel, pretty similar with some of these picks. I'm still liking Kirk Cousins just because he's affordable at 76. Think he's going to have a really nice showing, bounce back with the yards and all the touchdowns this week. And finally got a win last week, which was much needed for them. So he's only $7,600. He's much cheaper than on the Mahomes on the other side. $1,600 discount there. You got some other guys that are ones that you could look to below him, like Joe Burrow at 7,000, or maybe a C.J. Stroud or a Matthew Stafford. But I'm sticking with Cousins on both sides. Running backs, I don't see myself going up to 9K to Derrick Henry. We'll see. Montgomery's a little expensive for me at 85. More expensive than Bijan. Mostert is just way too expensive. And same thing with A-Chain, I'd say. I'd rather go down to a Joe Mixon at 7K flat. I'd rather go down to an Alvin Kamara at $7,100. Two guys that are going to be looking at bulk of the running back snaps. And both are involved in the passing game as well. Otherwise, James Conner, Pacheco, Hall. Three other guys that you could take shots on. Wide receivers, still stacking Kirk Cousins with Justin Jefferson. Jamar Chase is there as well. He's expensive at 87, but easy to fit him in, especially with some of the value that we have at running back with those 7K guys. I do like getting to DeAndre Hopkins this week. I think he's due for a very good showing. We know Treylon Burks is out, so should see more targets for Hopkins this week. And he's only $6,100, so super affordable. Other ones that are cheap here will be a Jalen Waddle. I do think that Reynolds is a little expensive on FanDuel. He's still playable at 63, but you got Hopkins cheaper. If I was going to go to a Detroit receiver, probably look at Khalif Raymond on FanDuel, who's only 53, believe. Or it might even be 48. Yeah, he's $4,800 for Khalif Raymond. He's definitely affordable to look to. Robinson looks all right on FanDuel at that price, but I like Hopkins. I think Zay Flowers, 59, is in for a good game as well. Tight ends, put in Sam Laporte at 6K. He's just so cheap. I don't know what they're doing with Travis Kelce's price at this on FanDuel right now. It's glitch, 87, 89. But he's expensive. He's easy to get to if you go a little bit cheaper like I did at running back and throw him in your flex. But Laporte at 6K is going to be probably the number one weapon for Goff in this game. And he's already shown so much upside as a rookie. They use him 80% of snaps, high 70% of snaps, running a lot of routes. So taking a stab at him. And then defenses, still got the Titans defense cheap on FanDuel. They are $3,500. I think they look solid. Like I said, the Panthers you could maybe look to. Otherwise, I'm not really looking at the Steelers. Not looking at the Colts. Maybe you can take a shot on the Saints defense against Mac Jones. Have been terrible this year. Jets defense. And it's pretty much it. So that's what I got for week 5 across the sites. Thank you for watching. Best of luck. I'll catch you all next time.